Good morning. Today is Monday, March the 28th, and I would like to share a few thoughts about a subject that I have been in myself numerous times, but God has showed me how to overcome. And that subject has to do with self-pity. And I want to start by saying I think it's fair to say that a majority of us have situations or circumstances that are far less than favorable going on in our life, but they don't have to spiral down into the realm of self-pity. And I found a few tools that have truly helped me, and it is my prayer and hope that they will help you as well. The first thing that I found was an article written by Roger Crawford, Hall of Fame speaker and life coach. He entitled his article, How to Overcome Self-Pity. And he starts off by saying, for those of you who have heard me speak, you've likely heard this quote, you don't have to live in Pity City. All of us have taken up residence in Pity City. Maybe you were rejected for a job you really wanted, or you feel overwhelmed because of challenging circumstances. It's important that your stay in Pity City does not become permanent, because self-pity will sap your strength, keep you stuck in a cycle of excuse-making, and steal your joy. Feeling sorry for yourself is unproductive. Why do people move into and stay in Pity City? Perhaps it feels like a way to protect their emotions. When you feel self-pity, you tend to blame other people or circumstances for how you feel. And again, he subtitled this, feeling sorry for yourself is unproductive. Feeling this way allows you to avoid taking responsibility for who you are and where you are. As a result, you don't risk improving your life because you believe the end result will be negative. All right? And if we don't risk or feel responsible for our lives, we mistakenly believe we will avoid anxiety and disappointment. Actually, not accepting responsibility creates more of the emotions you are trying to sidestep, because you will experience loss of self-respect, loss of respect from others, worry, discontent, and low self-esteem. You don't have to allow self-pity to demolish your dreams and keep you from achieving your highest potential. Here are a few ideas to help you move out of Pity City for good. All right? Don't wallow in self-pity. Move on. Just let go of the illusion of quote-unquote fair. Resist spending time trying to figure out if your struggles are fair, and focus instead on taking control of your mindset. Self-pity paralyzes you with this thought, when life is fair, then I will be successful. All right? All right, and I'm going to pause this article for just a moment and share a couple other thoughts. And something that the Lord had showed me actually several years ago in dealing with my own issues of when I was feeling really sorry for myself, only seeing all the negative things in that were going on in my own personal life. What the Lord showed me was that self-pity is very similar to quicksand. And what we know about quicksand is if you get your foot in it or stuck in it, if you don't get out of it like right away, it can pull you down into it, suck you right down into it, and completely overcome you. And a scripture that the Lord, he showed me just this morning, which is why I wanted to just go ahead and make this little video. He reminded me of Psalms 40 verse 2, and this is David talking. And for those who know about David in the Old Testament, he went through a lot of things in his life. A lot of good, but a lot of bad too. And in Psalms 40, verse 2, David said, and I'm going to read in different versions. The first one I'm going to read is from the King James. It says, He, which is talking about God, brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. Those familiar with the book of Psalm know that it is written by David mostly, but not entirely. But there are a lot of prayers in the book of Psalm, a lot of crying out to God in the book of Psalm. A lot of that came from David. So, and this is one of the things when he talked about how he cried out to God. God brought him out of that miry clay, which I'm going to think might very well have been self-pity, like the quicksand of self-pity. He cried out to God. God pulled him out of that, set his feet upon a rock, and established his goings. And I found something here that talks about what does Psalms 40 verse 2 mean. And they start with the verse again. God brought me up out of the pit of destruction. This is another version of that, another Bible version of that verse. Out of the pit of destruction, out of the miry clay, and God set my feet upon a rock, making my footsteps firm. And it says here, this psalm begins as a sacrifice of praise to God, because the Lord hears the cries of his servant David and answered to his need. David had been patiently waiting for God to respond to his petition and cast himself wholly on the Lord, fully believing God would respond to his cry and deliver him from his difficulties. And David was not disappointed. It seems that the Lord responded to the sweet psalmist of Israel after a long period of prayer and patient petition. The problem he faced must have been significant, for he described himself as being in a deep pit of destruction and a cesspool of miry clay, which was sucking him deeper and deeper into its suffocating clutches. And the way that this author describes that situation is how the Lord, it reminds me of how God showed me self-pity is like quicksand. It's the same kind of a scenario. Deep pit of destruction, cesspool of miry clay, sucking him deeper and deeper into its suffocating clutches. But the Lord raised him up out of the pit of destruction. David was rescued from the miry clay, and the Lord set his feet upon the rock of his salvation and established his steps, making my footsteps firm, is David's delighted statement. And that is really the focus, how we overcome self-pity. And I'm going to go back to this Life Coach's article here. But before I finish reading more of this, I wanted to also interject. God showed me the difference between when we vent. We use that expression that someone needs to vent. I do that. I use that myself. Venting is healthy. A healthy way to express the things that are going on in our life, especially the negative things. We need to vent. And for anyone who's used a pressure cooker before or is familiar with how a pressure cooker operates, that is a piece of kitchen cookware, especially for canning. There's a valve at the top of the pressure cooker, and that when the temperature reaches a certain level, the valve will open up, and it's necessary for that valve to open to release that built up steam. That's part of the way that a pressure cooker works. In our lives, when we do go through a lot of things and a lot of pressure is being built up in us, we have to vent. We need to vent. We need to get that out, like the little valve on a pressure cooker. And the reason I bring that up is because that's what David did the healthy way when he cried out to God. He vented. He was telling God exactly what was going on in his life. And in our case, we might want to include someone else. We might want to talk with someone else, venting if you will, the things that are going on in our life, but not just leave it there. We need to turn to the Lord. We need to turn to God. We need to get that venting out. Like what David did, he cried out to God. God was the one who pulled him out of the miry clay, set his feet on a rock, and established his paths. So, and now I want to finish a few more thoughts from Roger Crawford, the life coach, on how to overcome self-pity. Now he goes on and says, look for ways to help others. And I think this is so very important. This has truly helped me over the years. When I turn my focus away from myself and look to someone else. And Roger Crawford says, when you are in a cycle of self-pity, you tend to be self-focused, thinking only about your reasons to be bitter and resentful. You can break this negative cycle by looking for opportunities to help others. One of the quickest ways to lift yourself out of self-pity is to find ways to lift others up. When you begin to help people make their life more positive, you stop focusing on your negativity. You see your life from a different perspective. It's so true. And can appreciate all the blessings that you have. Which I'm going to stop there for a second. Something else God showed me is to have the attitude of gratitude. To purposely, mindfully look at the things in your life that are good. All of us have things that are positive and good. And to be grateful for those, to express gratitude, to be very thankful for those things that we have. And then this here continues to say, helping others boost your own self-confidence and gratefulness. All right, it says look for inspiration. Motion is driven by emotion. So if you're feeling down, overwhelmed, or fearful, inspiration can serve as a catalyst for motivation. Be vigilant in looking for people and stories that inspire you. I've done this myself. I still do this. I purposely look for movies, especially true life stories of people who have gone through or who have overcome horrible circumstances. And the things that they've done inspire me and help me for when I'm facing or going through something negative, because I remember what they did to overcome, and I implement those things in my own life. And there's just a lot of really, really good things in here. And I will include this article so you can read this for yourself, because it's kind of lengthy. But those are just my thoughts that I wanted to share today on self-pity is real, but overcoming it is even more real and very possible. So I want to encourage you today to vent to God, get those things out, talk to Him about that, tell Him what's going on in your life, ask Him to pull your feet out of that miry clay, ask Him to show you ways how to overcome, look for someone else to help, and look for some inspiration for your own life, and so that you can be healed and whole. So those are my thoughts today on this Monday. Have a very blessed and beautiful day. Thank you.